Got it?
Yep.
All right, Dani. Thanks for doing this with me.
No problem.
So Dani, you came on the trip this last summer, and what, like when you first heard about it and started to think about signing up, what were you like thinking you were doing? What were you thinking?
Yeah, so my college friend just texted me and very succinctly was like, there's this woman I met. I think this is her last name's Ruff, and she's taking women to Alaska. And I said, that's all you need to say. What's her number? And it just resounded for me because I'd been wanting to for 2 years to get out in the wilderness. And I had planned to go to Montana and I said no because I made all kinds of excuses. So the moment I was like, I really need this, whatever it is, without knowing any specifics. Just Alaska to me means big, wild, remote, hard, or I should say challenging. So we met. We connected, which I was like, I've talked to this woman for an hour on Zoom. I'm going wherever she wants to go. Even though we didn't end up going to Alaska, I just had the expectation like my soul needed it.
Yeah.
I needed to be in nature. I needed help. And even though I'd worked on myself for such a long time, I had gone through such a dark period of just learning things about my family, about myself, about abuse. And my soul was so hungry and I just was desperate.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of draw your future map and looking at what's going on and planning in such a beautiful way and a visual drawings, and just I could look at it anytime I wanted to. And it wasn't a step-by-step thing. It was more abstract. And I really needed that.
Yeah, definitely not like prepackaged. This is all about like showing up and then assessing like where are you at, what do you need, and how do we move it forward. So yeah, so there's like the kind of coaching component of that, and that was was that a new experience for you? Had you
Yeah, I'd never done that before. I'd done typical therapy. And growing up in the church, a lot of that was praying and, examining yourself, with scriptures, and it didn't necessarily look like this. And some of the things like meditation I had never done. And I was like, all right. And you put me completely at ease. If you don't feel comfortable doing something, you don't have to do it.
Right.
And so you never pressured me to do anything. But when I found out when we actually did a meditation session, I was like, I've done some of this before.
Wait.
I'm like, I've been in this space. I've been in this mental place. And it was really, I felt a lot of freedom in that. And just a door opened of, hey, here's some other tools to help, right? And your compassion and your empathy, and even our similar stories or similar things we've walked through, and your passion for helping, and it just really made it very effortless. And I'm so glad that we did the coaching even before we went on the trip and even after.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm so glad, and that's exactly where I want things to be.
Can I talk about our mind meld moment where
Yeah.
So one of the things on the draw your future map was being close to God again, and whatever that looks like. And in my safe place that I went in the meditation, what I created the space in my brain, which I had since I was way young, was leaning against a big tree. There's a stream, and I'm just sitting under this big tree, and being at peace, right? So when we did the draw your future map, you hadn't drawn everything out, you had just written it out. But when I see it, there I am, close to God. You have me leaning up against a big tree. And it was funny to me because I was like, this is good. This is what we need to be doing. And so it was just one of those little sweet moments of, okay.
Those moments are always like so shocking to me, because I'm like, how is this possible? Like, how is
Yeah,
this?
you're in Washington and I'm in,
And like, here's like maybe the second or third time we've ever talked,
I know.
and we're like so connected.
Ah, no, I felt the connection instant.
Yeah.
Your passion for just working with people who have been abused and poorly treated, and that's been my life work pretty much.
Yeah.
And the weightiness of that, and family stuff, and
Mhm.
yeah, it just was like meant to be. It was meant
Yeah.
to be. Whatever you want
Yeah.
to call that, it was meant to be.
Yeah. So what was like the most surprising thing about the trip itself?
Sure. I was really concerned about getting along with women, being with a group of women, because being a police officer and then leaving that world and then trying to bond with people, especially women, has been difficult, apart from like family and all that. And I just found myself just instantly bonding with three essential strangers, being able to share with them. And it was a back and forth. It wasn't just me, just being like, I've known these women forever and really did not know them. So that was great. I really didn't have, I thought I was going to sob. I thought I was going to have this emotional breakdown out in the wilderness because my soul was so hungry. And the opposite happened, to where my soul was being fed,
Yeah.
like just taking in all of it, even if it was the down trees in the beginning. Even it was very difficult and it was hot, and we got through it, the challenges, right? Whether it was the swarms of bugs, whether it was mosquitoes or the biting flies, got through it, and it just was like remarkable. And I, the bonding, the laughing, it just was what my soul needed. Besides the beautiful setting that we were in, it was just
Yeah.
necessary for me to be there. Like it was all was right in the world,
Yeah.
minus the bugs, but all was right in the world.
Well, what I thought was amazing about the bugs is just the way that we were able to eventually adapt to them. So like the first day or two, we're like, all the spray, all the everything, swatting and just in our heads. And then eventually we're like, oh no, we just need to
Walk
walk
and
and eat.
eat
And
some bugs.
yeah, whatever. It'll be okay.
And we made games about it, like how many bugs can you kill in one swat? Like it was, we adapted. We knew it wasn't forever. There was nothing we could do about it.
Right. Yeah. There's surrender or complete acceptance that happens in that moment. And you're like, but I can focus on this really challenging bug filled, or I can look at this amazing vista out into like the mountains in Canada and be like
Yeah.
totally amazed by that.
Right. And then our joke of, okay, thank goodness for these head nets. And when life gets hard at home, we're just gonna put the head nets on and be like, mommy needs some time, right?
Always put the head net on.
Yeah. I mean, nothing really bothered, was annoying when I came back, because I was like, you don't even know. You don't even know about the bugs. So that was really, I think, one of the things. I love the work that we were doing. The reflections, the meditations. I really I felt the biggest moment for me was the day we had the quiet morning, and then you and I hiked down to those little lakes.
Mhm.
So that was one of our longer days, but I was really excited. So we had some reflection in the morning. We did the sound meditation, which was phenomenal, which I practice that. That's so easy for me. I'm not good at meditation, but that's an easier one for me.
Yeah.
Just listening to what's around and writing it down, really letting your body and mind calm down and listen. But that hike was what I needed. And that's kind of what I had pictured, where it's just a single little path, beautiful vistas, open vistas, fields of wildflowers. And it just was, besides the temperature being perfect, it just was like heaven and what I needed. And I just was smiling. And I hike by myself most of the time, so I'm a quiet walker, but it just was so refreshing. And I remember we sat down because it was at lunch time and we were waiting for the others to catch up. And you were talking about waiting for a gift or looking for a gift. And you might have said that the poem before we even started. So I'm sitting there quiet, and a hummingbird is within a foot of my face, just sitting there. And I was so elated. I was like, oh, and I screamed, hummingbird! And you look at me like it's quiet time still. But it was such a beautiful thing. It was unexpected. I'm like, there's hummingbirds in the mountains. And so I just had so much, I think I was just grinning from ear to ear that whole time. And I'm like, Morgan, once we get to, do you see that water? Can we hike down to the water? Like I'm asking permission, but we go down and it was beautiful and stunning. And granted, we got a little hot, but we saw bald eagles down there, which was unexpected. And yeah, just, it was gorgeous. And I just felt like I could do anything.
Yeah.
Like nothing is gonna bother. Yeah, everything is right in the world.
Yeah.
I know we're gonna go back to camp and there's gonna be bugs, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna have to go back home. My in-laws are dying. I'm gonna go back to working trauma, doing trauma work with people. It just doesn't matter as much as right now.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. The whole thing was amazing, but that was my favorite.
Have you been able to like call on that moment of silence and walking when you've been going through these really challenging times in the last couple of months?
I think, having some of the challenges of the trip, and I've been through things throughout life, right? And some of my police training definitely does help center in trying times, but finding that peace of being in those places, the places are still there. That feeling I can call up. Now, we came back within a month. Both of my in-laws died within a week of each other. And, just it was what it was, and being all that I needed to be for my family. And it is a challenge, but carrying stuff for a week, setting up tent, breaking down, jumping over logs, falling off logs, right? All of a sudden your knee's swollen for no reason. Challenges. Can I dig this hole fast enough to use the restroom? Right? You really can do anything. Like I've been through hard things. There's going to be more hard things. You can do it. You need the tools and support, right? But you can do it.
Yeah.
So, and I think when I look back at my life, I see that too. So that just reiterated, like, you can do it. There's challenging things, and the emotional side of it of what are you feeling? What's going on? Not pushing it down, but addressing those things was some of the work that we had been doing, which was helpful.
Yeah. Well, I loved watching and witnessing and being part of that journey for you on the trail. And like, you really did, you just radiated joy at every minute. I'm like, we're being swarmed by mosquitoes and Dani's just smiling ear to ear. She's just laughing, telling funny stories. And, I love that like we could kind of go from these like deep conversations and feelings and sharing to like something really funny and light and silly and goofy and just kind of be on this path and this journey together.
Yeah. And I feel like leaving that trip when we got to the top, back to the trucks, I was sad in the sense of, I know we had a great time, but I'm like, these women that I've met, we all go back to our quarters essentially of the world of the US. But I was just like glad, but like I really enjoyed the time. Yes. So but I knew that I'd be friends with these people for a long time.
Yeah. That's great.
Let's talk about the back pain, huh?
Yeah, okay. Let's share me talk about your back.
Yeah. So for as long as I can remember, maybe 10 years or so, I had lower back pain. I had like 2 knots that I always have, almost debilitating. And I just chalked it up to sports injuries, car accidents, wearing a gun belt that weighed, 30 pounds over time, being pregnant, having a big baby. So in the morning, it was like I couldn't have been down to even put food in the dog dish. I'd have to sit on a heat pad, do yoga. I even lost 30 pounds, hoping that would work. And nothing really alleviated it. It was every day. And even before we went on the trip. And when we came back, it was like a week or two, I realized I have no back pain. It's completely gone. There's no knots. I'm free to, and you think it would be worse.
Right? After sleeping on the ground and carrying a heavy
Yeah.
pack.
And, my foam cell mat that was flat, because I'm like, I'm saving weight. And I'm like, this is for children. This is not for, you think that would be. And carrying the pack and up and downs and, no. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it's been sustained since July that I don't have that problem. And I think my husband, he's like, is your back bothering? I was like, not at all. Nothing. There's no knots. Nothing. So something we did.
Attribute that to?
I attribute it to doing, I'm really thinking it was an emotional connection to the pain in my body. And we did a lot of work before we went. We did work while we were there, and we did work after.
Yeah.
And a lot of that being open, and I think you use the word surrendering, just to do this, loving myself, beginning to do this work, loving myself enough to take these steps, addressing these hard things in my life, even though they're not all figured out.
Right.
But I really, taking those steps is what did it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do anything. You think I would exacerbate the problem with what we did?
I know.
I'm almost 40 years old. You think that
I have back pain, I can't do this. Or I have back pain, there's no way.
But not that I would say that.
Like, I have back pain and I'm doing this. And then the end result being like freedom from pain.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a muscular thing. It wasn't like a spinal condition.
Right.
But so I'm not saying to anybody who may read this.
I'm gonna cure my herniated.
Because I had broken my foot in a horrible way.
Yeah.
And I was more concerned with the foot thing than I was with the back pain. Because truly, as soon as I sit on the heat pad for an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, I didn't, I'd loosen up and I'd be better. I'd do some stretches, it'd be better. But it was every morning. So I was more concerned with, is my foot going to be able to do this or not?
Yeah.
And it did. It was fine.
You had the fanciest shoes out there. The fanciest shoes.
I did have some fancy shoes. I splurged a little bit for those because let me just say, I didn't have to break them in. So that worked out. But I did train beforehand. I did go on hikes with a heavy bag, and I did prep before I went.
Yeah. So like on the technical side, you have some experience backpacking, so you knew a bit more about what you were getting into than maybe our other participant. But what was your experience with like the technical side, the food, the instruction, all of that?
Well, I felt like I was in very capable hands with your background, and then with Liz being a professional guide and having done and you doing the ski, I don't know what you call them, the ski hikes, whatever you call them. And then, I knew that you had done more extreme things that we were doing. And I had not hiked out west except in like day hikes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was over prepared, but we went over the gear list and, whittled down because I bought stuff for Alaska and I didn't want to be cold and I didn't want to be, too hot. Right. But I wanted to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt just okay, they know what they're doing. And I picked very particular about the snacks and everything that I needed to do. I felt very well instructed.
Uh-huh.
And but I didn't anticipate how good the food was going to be and that there's fresh ingredients. And I was like elated for all the breakfasts and dinners because I was satiated. And I was like, well, how did you cook this, Liz? Because I want to take this home and make this for dinner. So
Yeah.
that was phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, I had hiked before and nothing was so hard that I couldn't do it. And very doable. I think the most challenging part was in the down tree part.
Yeah,
In the
that was challenging
but
for
that
all.
was just, getting our heaviest packs over and under and finding a way through. But
Yeah,
that
day
was the
one,
hardest part.
there was, yeah, just some Liz and I always laugh because it's always seems to always happen that way, that the first day it's just we sandbag everybody. We're like, yeah, we can totally do this. And then we're like, sandbagging is like a racing term where you like say it's gonna be easy and then it ends up being like the hardest thing ever.
Yeah, I've done that to
You
people
gotta
before.
work on that day one entry.
It's only a mile. Yeah. Um, you only have 10 more push-ups. Yeah. So that was challenging, but and that first day we had that, and then we realized, oh no, there are a lot of bugs. And we had a smaller tent. And so then I was like, well, I looked at our friend and I was like, well, if you didn't know me before, now you're really gonna know me. And we just did it. Like there was nothing like you're like, well, we can't go back. So you just adapted. And it was I think we were tired that first day, even though it wasn't that long of a trip down, but we had driven so far to get there. And I think, just
Anticipation of everything.
yeah, but it was great.
You did it, yeah. So like what are your biggest takeaways from this whole experience? Like, how are you leaving now compared to where you were at the beginning?
Sure. So we looked over the Draw Your Future map that we had done in the very beginning and the coaching sessions before we even left for the trip. And some of the things that I had were so big and felt so huge. And even looking at them on the map, they just don't have the same weightiness anymore. I'm realizing like I'm accepting some of the things that I can't change. And even like one of the things was putting myself first, and even just huge changes, maybe not huge, but bigger changes that I wouldn't have done beforehand. Like as I'm always last because it's my choice, right? Gotta take care of everybody. And so now I'm just saying, nope, I'm not doing that. This is what we're gonna do, or I need time. Thank you guys, right?
Yeah.
So those are big things. And just I feel like there's so much more joy in accepting some of these things and taking these steps, that I'm not stuck in a rut in these old places that have been maybe longer than I wanted to be. And I even said, I don't know if I've ever felt joy before for this. I don't even remember a time when there was, hope of better things, or hey, things are shifting that hadn't shifted before, or being bound by thinking of self-hatred, or like you could only be better, like get your shit together. Just the power of choices and decisions that we have to better ourselves, make our life better, is huge. Even though I knew those things, none of these things are surprises.
Right.
But it's just like you facilitated that, and you're like, let's really think about these things.
Yeah.
And creating space to do that. And even on our sessions, our counseling sessions, or meeting sessions, and then even just with something that came up, realizing how I handled the situation was so different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feeling, hey, what is this feeling? Where are you feeling in your body? What's some good that came out of this? And then moving on.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of letting it take root and take up residence, I was able to move past it.
Yeah.
So that's a huge shift in thinking before. And it brings us just like,
So amazing.
yeah,
So
a big
amazing.
deal,
There's
right?
hope and there's joy and there's all these things.
And it's nothing that complicated, right, Morgan? It's not like, it's not. And
Yeah.
you already have the tools inside yourself to do all these things, right?
Yeah.
It's just sometimes it's so convoluted you can't see it.
Yeah.
That, you have the choice, you have the voice, you can choose.
Empowered. You're so empowered. Yeah.
Sexy.
You're sexy. Yeah, mama.
In there.
Excuse me. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love all of this. And I just see like, look what unfolds when you say yes. You're like, felt it. You're like, I don't know this person, but it's a yes.
Or
And
even how my family was like, you're not saying no to this. They didn't know anything. They didn't even talk to you. They didn't look at the video. They had no idea who you were. And they're like, if you say no to this, my sister's like, I will put it on my credit card. You are going, right? So it was a whole, everyone knew somehow that this is what needed to happen in my life at that moment. And even my husband said, I didn't say this, when I came back, he's like, you're a different person.
oh,
And I said, really? He's like, yeah. What happened in the woods?
what happened?
What happened? Because, and the thing is, like, my family doesn't want to do those kind of backpacking. They're not used to that kind of thing. And like, we like showers. And I said, oh, I like showers too. But fantastic.
You also like bathing in the river, the cold river.
Oh yeah, like my knee was swollen for some reason. Yeah, and that was the ice water.
Yeah,
which you pay to go to.
Water
right?
therapy now.
Activate the cold proteins. No, that was fantastic. That was like the perfect. And I wasn't. Yeah. And I think another thing that, being stinky or wearing the same clothes all the time, but you just don't think about it. It wasn't a problem at all. Like, and I don't know if this is a thing to even mention, but just even being on my period during the first part of the trip and like concerns about it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
It's just like something to think about, but really wasn't a problem at all. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the shower at the hotel when I got back.
There's like this whole new level of appreciation that comes. Like normally, you take a shower every day, you're blah, 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 it's part of your routine. And then you don't have it for a week. And then you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, hot water.
Yeah, because I didn't even bathe.
And it comes out. I didn't have to go to the river to get it.
Yeah. I think I washed my hair 3 times. And even when I dried it with a towel, it was brown. But yeah, and just appreciating the quiet that we had and all the noises, being in the airport because I left, the day after we came back. It was so loud. I was like, I just need to be in the quiet and appreciating that calm. Like, I just need to take care of basic things: water, food, shelter. That's it, right? Yeah. Very basic things. And then going back was a little, yeah. I was like, Tom, my husband and my sister and my little girl are all like, oh, and I'm like, I just need to go somewhere.
Sit outside.
Yeah.
Well, I have loved being on this journey with you, and thank you so much. And I just am like, I wish I could reach through the screen and hug you right now. Oh, I miss you.
I miss you too.
Thank you for trusting me, trusting yourself, and saying yes.
Yeah. I'm glad I met you, Morgan.
I am too.
Like, thanks, Lori.
Yeah, thanks, Lori. You're fast. All right.